All right, welcome back to the deep dive. One question we get all the time is about ID requirements in Spain.
Yeah.
Like, do you really need to carry your ID everywhere you go?
Mm.
Is it as strict as everyone says?
Mm-hmm.
Well, lucky for you, we found an article that breaks it all down. It's from Rhonda today, called Carrying ID When Visiting or Living in Spain.
Oh, interesting.
It's written by Clive Muir and was published on August 15th, 2024. So get ready to learn because we're about to separate fact from fiction and give you the knowledge you need to travel confidently in Spain.
I'm excited to dive in.
Me too. So let's get right to it. The article doesn't beat around the bush. It says carrying government-issued ID is mandatory for everyone in Spain.
Yep, that's right. It's a common misconception, particularly for tourists. They think
Yeah.
they can leave their passport in the hotel safe.
Right. Just wander around with like a hotel key card or something.
Precisely.
But it sounds like that's not going to cut it.
Not if you want to stay on the right side of the law.
Okay, fair enough. Point taken. But I got to ask,
Yeah.
why is Spain so strict about this? I mean, lots of other European countries have ID cards,
Sure.
but it's not always such a big deal if you don't have it on you at any given moment.
That's what makes Spain's approach so unique. Their Documento Nacional de Identidad.
The what?
The Documento Nacional de Identidad, or DNI for short.
Right.
It's like deeply ingrained in their culture and their daily life. It's more than just an ID card.
More like essential for existing in Spain.
You could say that, yeah. You use it for everything, opening a bank account, buying train tickets, even confirming your identity for credit card purchases.
Oh, wow. They really take this seriously.
They do.
Okay, so now I'm a little curious about the consequences.
Okay, yeah.
What happens if you don't have your ID on you in Spain? The article hinted at some unpleasant possibilities.
Right, so the Policia Nacional, or the Guardia Civil,
Hmm.
they can ask for your ID at any time, and if you don't have it, you could be detained or fined.
Oh, no, I guess that whole passport in the hotel, safe for peace of mind strategy totally backfires in Spain.
It does. While officers might be lenient sometimes, they're under no obligation to let you off with just a warning.
No, it sounds like they're not messing around.
Yeah.
So word to the wise folks, always have your ID in Spain. No exceptions. But what about people traveling from other EU countries?
Right.
Doesn't, EU law guarantee free movement within the zone? So shouldn't they be good to go with, their national ID cards from their home country?
It does guarantee free movement, but there's a nuance there.
Oh.
Each country can still set its own rules for ID checks within its borders, and Spain chooses to be particularly strict about it.
Uh-huh, so there's a little wiggle room within those EU rules.
Yeah.
But it sounds like things get even trickier with Brexit, right?
Absolutely. Since the UK left the EU, UK citizens are now classified as third country nationals. It's a whole different ballgame.
Okay, so no more special treatment for our friends across the channel. What does that mean practically for UK citizens living in or visiting Spain?
Big changes. Think back to that old green A4 residency document that some UK citizens might still have tucked away somewhere.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, sort of a relic of the past.
A blast from the past, you
Yeah.
could say.
Exactly, and guess what? It's officially obsolete as a valid form of ID in Spain now.
Really?
The article makes that very clear, and instead they need to obtain a tie.
A tie. That sounds important. What is that?
Yeah, it stands for Tarjeta de Identidad de Extranjero. It's essentially the new residency card for UK citizens living in Spain.
Gotcha. And it's absolutely essential to have.
Absolutely.
So wait a minute. If someone's walking around with that old green paper, they're technically not carrying valid ID.
Exactly. And that's where things could get really complicated. The old A4 document even states explicitly that it's not valid for identification.
Wow. So UK citizens in Spain, listen up. Make sure you've got that tie card and ditch the old green paper. But now I'm curious about something else the article mentioned. Why is carrying ID so deeply rooted in Spanish culture? It's not just about following the law, right? It seems like there's something more to it.
Yeah, it's a fascinating aspect of their society. To really understand it, we need to go back in time a bit. Think about Spain under Franco's regime. Back then, the DNI was basically a tool for control.
Ooh, that sounds a little bit Big Brother-ish.
Definitely.
Mhm.
The government wanted to know everything about their citizens, where they were, what they were doing. Carrying ID was less about personal identification and more about surveillance.
That's pretty intense. So I guess those historical roots might help explain why ID is still such a big deal in Spain today.
Exactly. It's become woven into the fabric of their society. Even if you personally don't love the idea of carrying your ID everywhere, wouldn't you also feel a bit safer knowing that everyone else has to as well?
That's a good point. It creates a kind of collective sense of security and accountability. It's definitely different from here in host speaker's home country, where we don't even have a national ID card.
Exactly. That's what's so interesting about exploring different cultures. Their approach to ID, it reflects their unique history and values, just like yours does.
Yeah, that's a good perspective. Okay, so we've covered the history, the why, but let's get practical for a second. If someone's listening to this and they're planning a trip to Spain, what are the absolute must-knows about ID? Give it to us straight.
All right, here's the breakdown. First things first, if you're a UK citizen, double check you have that Thai card. Like we said, that's your golden ticket in Spain now.
No more green paper. What about everyone else? What should they keep in mind?
Passport. Always. Keep it on you, just like your phone or wallet. It's not just about avoiding a potential fine. It's about respecting the cultural norms of the country you're visiting.
So no more stashing it in the hotel safe for peace of mind.
Nope, not in Spain. Think of it this way. Carrying your ID is all part of the Spanish experience. It's like trying the paella or seeing a flamenco show. Embrace it.
I love that. Instead of seeing it as a chore or a hassle, see it as immersing yourself in the culture. It definitely makes it way less annoying.
Exactly. And hey, you might even start to appreciate that sense of security and order that comes with it.
It's true. There's something to be said for that. The article also mentioned some resources related to Spain, like Ronda Today. What's that all about?
Ronda Today. Oh, it's a great resource for anyone who's interested in the Andalusia region of Spain where Ronda is located. It's a beautiful area.
Cool. So if anyone's thinking of visiting Ronda, that's the place to go for info. Anything else worth checking out?
Well, the article also mentioned the Caminito del Rey, which is this amazing gorge hike with incredible views. If you're into adventure travel, it's a must-do.
A hike with a view. Sounds right up my alley. So we've gone from Spanish ID laws to a bit of history and cultural context to travel recommendations. That's the deep dive for you. But for our listeners, what's the big takeaway here?
Simply put, carry your ID, be aware of the post-Brexit changes if you're a UK citizen, and try to appreciate the cultural significance of it all.
Beautifully said. But I know you've got more to add. That brain of yours is always churning. What's the final thought-provoking question you want to leave our listeners with today?
Well, this whole deep dive into ID requirements, it got me thinking, like how a country's rules about ID, it can actually tell you a lot about its history and values.
Yeah, it's like a window into their culture.
Right. Like, does their system emphasize individual freedom or collective security? Do they prioritize trust or suspicion? There are so many fascinating questions you can ask.
I never thought about it that way. It's kind of amazing how a simple topic like carrying ID can lead to such a deep dive into cultural differences.
Yeah. It really is. I mean, those unexpected connections, that's what makes learning so exciting, right?
Absolutely. We started with a simple question. Do you need to carry ID in Spain?
Yeah.
And we ended up exploring history, culture, even a little bit of philosophy.
And hopefully, sparked some wanderlust along the way.
Oh, definitely. Speaking of wanderlust, we'll be sure to include those links to Ronda Today and the Caminito del Rey in the show notes for anyone who's ready for an adventure.
Always a good time to plan a trip.
So that wraps up our deep dive into ID requirements in Spain. We hope you learned something new today and maybe even challenged some of your own assumptions about identity and security.
Yeah, and as always, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you had any experiences, with ID requirements in Spain or other countries? What stood out to you from our discussion today? Share your insights with us on social media.
We're always up for a good conversation. Until next time, happy travels and don't forget your ID.